to all who have led and participated in our service. You may be seated. When my grandfather, Albert Shulman, immigrated to the U.S. from Belarus with his parents and 6 siblings by the way of the Siberian Railroad and across the ocean to America, he had to choose a birthday upon arrival. For he and his family didn't recall what day their little 4-year-old son was born. He selected today, July 4th, to be patriotic as a new immigrant to America. In fact, all his siblings selected birthdays either on or around our country's Independence Day. Why? Because he and they were proud to be American Jews and grateful to have escaped the pogroms and destitution in their country of birth to make it to the land of the free and the home of the brave, as if they themselves had left Egypt for a land of opportunity. And so our family got to celebrate each year around the sun with my grandfather on our country's birthday, in an act of annual patriotism that he inspired in all of us. If he was alive today, he would be 113 years young and every bit as proud. Today we honor the 250th year of our nation's independence. But what are we really celebrating beyond the hot dogs and fireworks, especially on Shabbat of all days? I believe we are celebrating the proud dual identity we hold as American Jews, like my grandfather and so many of our ancestors, including those who fought for this country, and the unique contributions, values, texts, and ideals that our people, the Jewish people, have contributed to the formation and flourishing of this country. Many of you have relatives like mine who fled Russia, Germany, Poland, even England, to find a better life here in America. Even the Puritans in the 1600s saw themselves as latter-day Israelites embarking on a new Exodus voyage. We often overlook the fact that this very country is rooted in Jewish ideas, statutes, and wisdom. Ours, a religion suspicious of monarchy, once gifted the founding fathers with a moral framework rooted in the power of the people and the principles, possibilities, and a positive spiritual trajectory that shaped this nation's foundation through the lens of Torah. And since then, countless Jewish leaders, thinkers, doctors, scientists, artists, judges, psychologists, athletes, filmmakers, and others have elevated the American brand and its democratic contributions on the world stage. I was reminded this Independence Day, through rereading our country's founding sources, that the basis of power in this country rests ultimately in the hands of the people. It is the people, we sometimes forget or are convinced otherwise, who can challenge authority, question the use of power, and change the course of history at any time. And that is precisely a fundamental Jewish value that we find emerging from this week's Torah portion. In chapter 27 of the book of Numbers, we meet the daughters of Zelophehad, Machlah, Hoglah, Noah, Milcah, and Tirzah, a group of esteemed sisters who realized that the law as written would cause them to lose their land, completely once the patriarch died in their family. And that is exactly the case that they brought before Moses, arguing, why should the name of our father be lost from our family because he has no son? Give us a holding among our father's brothers. How does Moses, the great leader and supreme judge of the children of Israel, respond? He has absolutely no idea what to say to them. He's baffled by their claim. So he brings their case to God. To God. And God's response is one of the most surprising and I would say critical lines in the whole Torah. God says, Ken, banot Zelophehad dovrot. The daughters of Zelophehad speak correctly. Yes, you shall surely give them a holding among the brothers of their father, and you shall cause them the inheritance of their father to pass over to them. That's it. They're right. It gets a little more complicated later, but still. And just like that, the law has been changed. This instance is just one of many moments which our Jewish people gift to Western civilization and the world, and a remarkable one at that, of a group of individuals standing together up to power in a united voice to argue for a change in law for the better, which is precisely the foundation of democracy. For their argument and character, the Talmud describes the daughters of Zelophehad as wise, discerning, and righteous, able to see what even Moses could not, and perhaps what God hoped a particularly wise individual or group would discover. Perhaps the most important legacy of Zelophehad's daughters today is their call to us to take hold of life, power, and justice with our own capable hands, to move from the place that others have given us or that we have decided to keep because we feel stuck or immobile, and to walk even to the most holy center, to where nobody seems able to go. After all, nothing is more sacred than life itself and the fight for what we believe is worthy. Thus, this Parsha inspires us to discover that we too have the ability to know what is right for ourselves and what our rights ought to be, to find common ground for change even with unlikely allies. Take a moment and imagine for a moment if instead, as a united group of 5 sisters, all of them had said or suggested different things. There might not have been a change in law if they hadn't come as a united front to Moses and the leadership. When we believe in our capacity to shape our own history together, to the point of being able to change even a law that came from the very revelation at Sinai, then we pay a tribute to Zelophehad's daughters, writes Rabbi Silvina Chemin. I don't say any of this lightly on this Shabbat, not at a time when we more and more often feel we're under attack as Jews and Zionists and many counties throughout this country, or at least our homeland and its people are. Many of us are still processing how someone so blatantly, openly anti-Israel could have won the primary in this district. This district. While this week we commemorate 1,000 days since October 7th, and how the lives of Jews have shifted painfully and dramatically across the globe since that fateful day. In Israel, there are signs hanging throughout the country and gatherings that were held to honor 1,000 days of Shiva. And in my neighbor's yard is a sign to elect Milat Kiros. We are all living in a post-October 7th world, which so many interpret divergently. One in which no matter what anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic rhetoric perpetuates on the left and on the right, the lessons of our people will continue to endure and can actually help America thrive in the next century and beyond, just as they have for the last 250 years. We need not be surprised anymore. We are going to see more candidates with the platform on which Kiros and others across political movements get elected to Congress and other positions. And we can no longer say, not in Colorado, it won't happen here. We've reached a tipping point in which we need to be prepared to unite across the aisles, to speak and organize as Jews, as the daughters of Zelophehad once did, in a unified, wise, discerning, and righteous way to address anti-Israel sentiment. And we need to prepare our children to do so with wise, discerning, righteous words themselves across a diversity of valid opinions. As many of you know, I spent the past week up at Ramat in the Rockies, and I saw up there many examples of Banot Zelophehad in this community. Not just girls speaking up or doing Hagbah, but also programs in which campers and staff, American and Israeli alike, were not afraid to study and speak about hot topics, difficult topics, about settlements, about what it's like to serve in the IDF, about how to love Israel no matter what your opinion of the current government might be. I sat in a 10th grade Pe'ulah, and I was so impressed with not only the bravery of the kids, but the staff to be able to have these open, honest conversations, to put everything on the table, and to truly learn together. They weren't afraid to talk complexity and love of Israel today, not just the Israel of our dreams, but the Israel of the modern state and the reality. And they weren't afraid to bring their full brains and questions and righteous challenges to the conversation. They were wise, discerning, and righteous. I was proud to be a board member of the camp, a parent of a child there, and someone up there as a rabbi to see such great dialogue happening. I think it's time we should all be asking, where are the daughters of Zelophehad in our time when we need them? And what will it take for us to stand up and become them? Now, Grandpa, what could be more patriotic than that? Shabbat Shalom. And now we'll continue with Musaf as we welcome Fred back up to lead us. On page 184, first with Chatzi Kaddish, then with our own silent Amidah, followed by a full repetition. I invite us as we take those 3 steps back and 3 steps forward to truly stand as Moses once did in this week's portion before God, asking of God whatever the truest real questions are that each of us hold about our own lives, about the Jewish people, about this country and the world. Page 184.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ביומא דברך ירתך וימליך מלכותך בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ועולמי עלמי יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא